How's everybody doing today? Back again with another video for you guys. And today I got something real special. Today I have a versus / comparison video between the Moto E4 and the Moto E4 Plus. And pretty much the way I could sum this up is they're the same, but they're different. So this might be a little bit quicker or slower than the way I usually do my versus class comparison videos, because I'm going to get a little bit more in depth in certain parts than others. But without further ado, just going to help you guys out and see which one might be better to pick up. So without further ado, let's jump into this. So the first thing I want to talk about on both devices is the overall build quality and design. Now, pretty much when we talk about the overall build quality and design on both of these, they're technically the same with some key differences. Now, you have the same slate clean slab here on both, with the key difference being that you have a 5-inch screen over here with a removable back and a removable 2800 milliamp hour battery. Alright. And yeah, whereas over here you have the hold on, let me make sure I grab this properly here. I don't want to be mixing stuff up. Hold on, I just messed something up that I was going to use. Hold on one second, guys. Alright, whereas over here you have a 5.5 inch pretty much slab. This one is, I want to say, coated texturized plastic, and this one is got an aluminum back plate to it. Now both of these back plates are user removable, but the big guy here has a non-removable 5000 milliamp hour battery. Both of these guys take nano SIMs and take micro SD card expansion. Alright, so other than the size difference and the back plate difference, I would say the build quality and design on both of these are quite good indeed. They both feel very good in the hands, and they both have really tactile buttons that are responsive and very clicky. But the one downside I would say between the both of these is you get more grip if you go with the smaller version, whereas the bigger version is a little bit more slippery. I don't know if it's thanks to the metal or the coated finish or what have you, but the bigger version, sometimes when I'm using it, it's just questionable when I'm holding it in my hand. I feel like it's going to slip out sometimes. But other than that, the build quality and design on both of these guys are really good. And Motorola, now owned by Lenovo, did a great job with this one. Now, let's keep it moving. Up next, I want to talk to you guys about the displays on these guys. And pretty much, again, they're similar but different. So we could do both of these at the same time. Turn that on. Go ahead and turn this one on too. Okay. So up front, dead center here, what we have on both of these, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Get that to clear up some. There we go. There we go. Very nice. Alright. So up front, dead center here, what we have on both of these is a 5-inch 720p display with a screen density of 294 and a 5.5-inch 720p display with the same screen density of 294. And pretty much, guys, these are both really good displays, and I haven't had any issues with either of these displays, especially when it comes to daily usage. No issues whatsoever. So the displays on these guys, aside from the size difference, they are really good. So in terms of displays, it's pretty much a tie. Much like build quality, comes down to personal preference. Now, let's keep it moving. Up next, let's talk about the hardware and the software in both of these guys. And pretty much, you're going to hear more of the same with some key differences that I'm going to point out along the way. Now, hardware-wise, both of these guys have 2 gigs of RAM and 16 gigs of onboard storage with the micro SD card expansion. The little guy here, the Moto E4, has a user removable, user replaceable 2800 milliamp hour battery. Alright, so this back plate does come off and you can replace the battery on this. I'm sorry about the lighting, still kind of early, I ain't got too much sunlight to work with today, but this back plate does come off and you can replace the battery on this. Okay, whereas with the big boy over here, the back comes off but you cannot replace the battery, and this one has a 5000 milliamp hour non-user replaceable battery to it. Alright, other hardware include the little guy here is running the Snapdragon 425 processor. That's an octa-core chip. And the big guy over here is running the Snapdragon 427 quad-core chip. My bad, I said octa-core. These are both quad-core chips. Alright? Other than that, they're technically the same. Cameras on the little guy here are 5 megapixel in the front with LED flash. Cameras on the big guy here are 5 megapixel on the front with LED flash. The key difference with the cameras, let me zoom out a little bit. Key difference with the cameras is that on the rear of the little guy, you have an 8 megapixel sensor here with LED flash. On the rear of the big guy, you have a 13 megapixel camera with LED flash. Other than that, these guys are both the same. Both cameras on either the front or the rear can record in 1080p, 720p, and 480p at 30 frames a second. Both the camera interfaces on both of these guys are set up the same. And both of these camera interfaces allow you to take advantage of Pro Mode on the front and the rear facing cameras. Okay? Okay, both of these guys have fingerprint sensors on the bottom up front here. Alright, both of these guys have front firing speakers, which also double as your receiver earpieces. Alright, good. So that pretty much does it for the hardware and the software on both of these guys. Sorry about those notifications. Now, I just want to take the time to point out an important difference that I noticed while I was using these. So, if we pull up CPU X and CPU Z here, let me pull it up over here, and you guys can see. Alright, so we got it pulled up over here, Let me zoom in so you guys can see a little bit. Right? There we go. So if you pull up CPU Z and CPU X, you can see that right there, the big guy has the Snapdragon 427. That's what that model number chip is, the MSM 8720. That's the model chip for the Snapdragon 427. And you see over here, looking on the little guy, you see the model number for the Snapdragon 425. But you also see down here on CPU Z that you have the model number for the Snapdragon 430. Let me swipe over here, and you can see it says that on both of these, the model number for the Snapdragon 430 series as well. So that right there is MSM 8937, MSM 8937. So you can see that it's very confusing, which is why I want to point out some differences. Now, regardless of whatever chip in here is in here, these are some good chips. Whether it be the Snapdragon 430, the Snapdragon 427, or the Snapdragon 425, they are some good chips. But one thing you want to look out for, and I'm going to go ahead and pan up and over so I can show you guys something. Know how well you can see that. Alright, let me zoom in a little bit. Oh, zoomed in too far. Actually, that will work. Alright, so as you can see here, don't really need the Snapdragon 435, but if you look at the Snapdragon 430, the LTE modems are different for the 430 and the 427. You actually get more available modems in the 427 than you would with the 430 or the 425. And if I scroll down here, and if at any time y'all want to pause and read for yourselves, y'all can do that. But if I scroll down here, you can see that the possible speeds between the 430, the 425, and the 427 are a little bit different, but it's a big difference, so I wanted to point it out. So peak download speeds for the 427 are better than the peak download speeds of the 425 and the 430. The 427 is in the middle here, so it's got a peak download speed of 300 megabytes per second, and it's got a peak upload speed of 150 megabytes per second. Whereas the Snapdragon 430 has a peak download speed of 150 megabytes per second and a peak upload speed of 75 megabits per second, which is the same for the Snapdragon 425. So, in my opinion, if you want the better chip and you want to get the best possible performance out of your carrier and your device, I would recommend that you go with the Snapdragon 427 chip, because then you have the more modems and you have the higher possible speeds. So as long as you have a carrier that supports certain LTE bands, you will know that you'll be getting the highest possible speeds possible. That being said, though, with all of my testing, I can honestly tell you that these chips, whether it be any one of these three chips, all of these three chips are on par with each other, because I've tested devices with the Snapdragon 430, I've tested devices with the Snapdragon 427, and I've tested devices with the Snapdragon 425. These three chips are on par with each other. And also, I just want to point out, if you get the international version of the Moto E4 or the Moto E4 Plus, then you're going to be getting the MediaTek MTK 6737 chip instead of the Snapdragons. Now, I haven't really tested that chip too much. I've tested other MediaTek chips, but I haven't had the privilege of testing that one. But it seems to be on par with some of these Snapdragon chips. Although a lot of people say they don't like the MediaTek chips too much because they're not as well optimized, but it is what it is. Just wanted to point out those differences there for you guys, so y'all could be better informed when you're making your purchasing decisions. All right, let me angle back down here. All right. And let's zoom back out. All right. All right, so just wanted to point that out for you guys. So let me close this out and close this out. It's extremely hard to do from behind the camera. So now that pretty much covers the hardware and the hardware differences on both of these guys. Now jumping into the software, again, both of these guys are pretty much running a stock vanilla version of Android 7.1.1 Nougat with Motorola's custom features thrown in. So let me just pull this up so y'all can see. So as you can see there, it's pretty much stock Android 7.1.1 Nougat. The only difference being that these are Amazon supported ads versions. So as I scroll up, you can see the Amazon login is embedded into the settings, and you can see if I close the lock screen here and relaunch it, you got your Amazon ad right there, and the same thing goes for right here as well. So if I close and relaunch, you got your Amazon ad over here as well. Other than that, it's pretty much a stock version of Android 7.1.1 Nougat with Motorola's custom little tweaks thrown in. So in particular, they just threw in some nice little gestures here. So you have your gestures to launch the camera, quick double tap of the power button. The quick twist of the wrist is gone on this one. but you still have your double tap of the power button. Then you have, in particular, you have your motor display. So when you get a notification or you raise your device, you'll the display will light up and you can interact with your notifications. And then also you have your one button nav, which means you could turn your fingerprint sensor into the one key that navigates the whole device. And then other than that, you have your gesture to shrink the screen. All right. Now, if you want to learn more about these features and see how they're used, please check out my full reviews of both devices, which will be linked down below in the video description. But talking about the hardware and software on both of these is pretty much an enjoyable stock experience regardless of which one you choose. So in terms of software and hardware, I'm going to have to call it a tie. And I know some of you guys may be saying, well, the big guy, the E4 Plus, does have that 13 megapixel camera. And honestly, guys, in my opinion, these cameras for photos and videos are right on par with each other. So it is what it is. Next, let's keep it moving, guys. Next now, I want to talk to you guys about the LTE band supported in these guys. And pretty much, guys, it's pretty much more of the same here. So let me pull it up. So we got an E4 here. And we got an E4 Plus over here. Pull this up. Okay. Okay. So there you go, guys. As you can see, the bands supported for both of these are pretty much the same. Let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can see. Pretty much the same band support on either one of these devices. And on paper, as I've been saying, these guys should technically work on every carrier in the United States and every GSM carrier abroad. Now, again, y'all want to take that with a grain of salt because, again, I haven't had a chance to test it out yet, but I've heard that Sprint and Verizon customers are having trouble getting their Moto E's and their Moto E4 Pluses to work on those carriers. So, but as I've said, I will test that out and let you guys know in the comments of each of these review videos. So y'all keep checking back on that to see what that's all about. But other than that, these guys are pretty much the same. They support the same bands and what have you. And they should at least work on every GSM carrier in the United States and abroad. Again, technically they say every carrier, but y'all take that with a grain of salt. Alright, so band support, we're good. Up next now, I kind of skipped over Wi-Fi, but y'all already know what it is. In terms of Wi-Fi, they pretty much have the same support as well. They have 802.11 BGNN and AC, no dual band, but they do have support for 2.4 gigahertz band and 5 gigahertz band. And the Wi-Fi works really, really good. As you can see, as I was navigating through the web pages here, no issues. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and pull up a YouTube video for you guys so we could test the speakers as well. And pretty much, guys, it's going to work flawlessly. And honestly, I almost skipped over this because honestly, I can't tell a difference in the speakers. And now I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I know you guys probably want to hear it, so I'm going to go ahead and let it play. So enjoy. They're both set to 100. Let's start off with the Moto E. Okay, now E4 Plus. Whoops. Okay, just had to do that real quick. So there's the Wi-Fi test, and there's the speaker test for you guys. Let me zoom out a little bit. All right, just in case, because I almost skipped over it. But in my opinion, these speakers sound the same, and I honestly can't tell the difference. They both are very crisp, clear, and loud. But in my opinion, I feel like they could be a little bit louder. Also, it would have been nice if they incorporated dual front-firing speakers instead of the one front-firing speaker here, but it is what it is. Now, let's keep it moving. Next, this is where we would talk about the Bluetooth in these guys, and technically, it's the same Bluetooth module across the board. They both have Bluetooth 4.1 technology in them, and honestly, guys, in terms of Bluetooth, I've had no issues with either device. So let me just show you here. If we turn on the Bluetooth on both of these, you guys can see that I've connected up a bevy of Bluetooth devices, and the Bluetooth on this guy just works. No issues on either device. Okay, so in terms of Bluetooth, you're not gonna have any problems. Now next thing I would talk about now is the GPS on both of these devices. And again, from a GPS standpoint, let me pull up my screenshots here. From a GPS standpoint, I got to tell you guys again, the Bluetooth or the GPS on both of these devices, sorry, making a lot of mistakes today. There's a lot of stuff to cover. But the GPS on both of these devices is really, really good. And regardless of whichever device that I used or whichever device that I had on hand when I headed out for the day, or maybe I walked out with both, I didn't have any issues with the Bluetooth on either of these devices. So again, in terms of Bluetooth, they're both really, really good. Now next, let's keep it moving. I already briefly talked about the cameras. Oh, I'm skipping over the call quality and speakers. Okay, my bad, guys. I'm trying to do a lot today. Getting a little flustered. I apologize. So up next, what I would talk about now is the overall call quality and speaker call quality for phone calls on both of these devices. And again, I would say, again, they're basically the same. In terms of speaker phone calls, they were really, really good. They got very crisp, clear, and loud, and I had no issues. Keep in mind, I am a T-Mobile customer, and I've been using both of these guys on T-Mobile. So, in areas when I had good reception, or when I've had signal period, and I can make a call, I had no issues, and I have any issues with callers on the other end. Everything was very nice, crisp, clear, and loud. Now, in speaker calls, again, it's more of the same. Speaker calls were very crisp, clear, and loud, but at least in my opinion, I felt like the speaker calls could have been a little bit louder in my opinion, okay? But all in all, I have to say, in terms of receiver calls and speakerphone calls, both of these devices are really, really good. Next, this is where I would talk about the cameras and the camera interfaces. I'm going to touch on this very briefly in the interest of speed. But if y'all want to know more and have a more in-depth look, please check out my full reviews of both of these guys, which will be linked down below in the video description. But technically, both the camera interfaces on these guys are the same. It's a very quick and easy to use camera interface. There's not too many menus to jump through. For the most part, the software is very intuitive and easy to use and mostly stays out of your way, so you can focus on snapping that important picture or taking that quick video family moment so you don't forget that moment, which is nice. And you do, again, have your quick launch gestures to get into the camera. So quick double press of the power button and we're in. And it's pretty much that easy. Okay, and that works on both. And you also have your lock screen shortcuts, so you can swipe in from the lock screen to get to the camera as well, or you could do it a few extra steps. You open the device and press on the camera icon and launch into the camera. But technically, that's pretty much it. And as I said, both the camera interfaces are technically the same, so it is what it is there. But now, talking about the overall camera experience, taking photos and videos with the front-facing 5 megapixel cameras or the 8 megapixel rear or the 13 megapixel rear firing camera on the Moto E4 Plus, it really was a joy. Pretty much anytime that I snapped a picture and I had good to decent lighting, I pretty much got the picture that I wanted or the picture that I was expecting. So overall, I'd have to say that the cameras on these guys are really, really good. And in terms of video, as I said, they do 1080p, they do 720p, and they do 480p. So you get the basic essentials in terms of videos, and you do have pro modes on the front cameras as well as the rear cameras for both of these guys. So you can really dial it in if you really want to. But that being said, overall, photos and videos on either of these devices are really, really good. So now let's keep it moving. Now, in terms of gaming, I would have to say that these are pretty much the same again. They're pretty much going to be able to run any casual game, whether it be Subway Surfer, Fruit Ninja, Asphalt 8. They're going to run it, but you will get a little bit of stutters and a few drop frames. Not bad enough to make it unplayable, but I'm just going to let you guys know it will happen. Now, if you move up to something that's a little bit more graphic intensive, then you're going to get a lot of stutters and a lot of drop frames. But as long as you stick to them casual games, y'all should be good to go. Next, now I just want to talk about the benchmarks. And I actually got to talk about it in this video because I noticed some big differences in terms of the benchmarks. But y'all already know how I feel about the benchmark numbers. Overall, they're just numbers. What really matters is the overall combination of hardware and software, which equates to a smooth and fluid user experience, which equates to a good user experience. But I did notice a big difference in the benchmark numbers. That's why I got to pull it up here. And also, I couldn't get the Disco Mark benchmark to run on the Moto E4 Plus. I'm not sure what the problem is, even though it ran perfectly fine on the Moto E4. So this benchmark I will not have on the Moto E4 Plus. Now, starting off with the 3D mark here, you can see both these guys scored in the 6,000s, but the Moto E4 Plus scored a little bit over 500 better, give or take a few points. And you know, it's not that big of a deal, but it was big, so I figured I might as well point it out. And this pretty much happened in every test. So swiping over the Geekbench here, this one was a little bit closer, but still outscored the Moto E here. This one was close. And as we keep going, get to Antutu here, about 300 points difference there, give or take a few points, but they're close. So I guess you can call it the same, but technically it's not. It's the same, but it's different. And then moving on here, if we go to, let me call them back. In the middle of this video, I'll call them back. So if you go over to the quadrant standard here, you can see it's a big difference. It's 1,000 points difference. So that was a big difference there. But overall, I guess you can say these benchmarks were in the same ballpark. But because I saw some big differences, I had to go ahead and point them out. But again, what really matters in terms of benchmarks is the overall. Benchmarks don't really matter. What was I going to say? What really matters at the end of the day is the overall user experience, which I believe both these devices deliver a really, really good user experience. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. We just want to be able to use our devices how we want and not run into any issues, which both of these devices can do no problems. Alright, they left a message. I'll call them back. Now, let's move on to the battery life and the overall charge times. And pretty much, in terms of battery life, both of these devices are really, really good. In terms of the Moto E4, you're going to get anywhere from about 6 hours to a little bit over 10 hours of screen on time. In terms of overall runtime, it's going to be pretty much the same. If you're a light to moderate user, you're going to easily be able to get through the day and probably have battery to spare. If you're more moderate to heavy user, you're going to easily get through the day and probably have to charge up at night. Now, putting that into perspective, in general, I got anywhere from about 12 hours of overall runtime to anywhere from about a day and a half of overall runtime. And keep in mind, I am a heavy user. I do a lot of social media. I do a lot of multimedia, YouTube, Pandora, Netflix, Hulu, all that good stuff. So I am a heavy user. And to still be able to get those numbers on the Moto E4 was really, really good. And pretty much for the E4 Plus, just take that number and add on 1 to 2 hours. Okay? So in terms of screen on time, I got anywhere from 6 hours to about 11 to 12 hours. That's screen on time. In terms of general usage, I got anywhere from about 12 hours to almost 2 days. Keep in mind that's a mixture of either light to moderate usage. That'll get you that close to 2 day mark. With heavy usage, you're looking at more of a day, maybe a day and a couple hours. But everybody uses their devices differently, so your results may vary. In particular, these were mine. Okay? So, now let's talk about the overall charge times. And really, guys, this is where I can say both of these devices were kind of the same. Let me pull it up here. So if we go to history, you can see, and keep in mind, this also depends on where you plug in your charger at. Now, the key difference here between these, again, let me point out again, is that the E4 does not have rapid charging, and it has the smaller 2800 milliamp hour battery. But you can see, depending on where you put it on the charger at, it's going to take you anywhere from about 1.5 hours to 2.5 hours to reach a full charge. So you can see this particular instance, it took an hour and 54 minutes. If I keep scrolling, you can see it took a little bit over 2.5 hours there. If I keep scrolling, hour 47. I didn't charge it that long that day, a little bit over 2 hours. So pretty much ballparking is going to be anywhere from about an hour and a half to 2.5 hours, depending on where you put it on the charger at. And that's kind of long, but not bad. And keep in mind, the overall battery life is still really, really good for the E4. So you're not going to really charge it as much as you would think. Okay? Now, take that number and add about 35 minutes to an hour. Okay? But also throw in a rapid charger, and then you see what we're talking about for the the E4 Plus here. Alright, now I may not have all the stats in here because I just did a factory reset, but you can see right here, again, like I said, take the numbers from here, add 35 minutes to an hour, and you got what you're going to get charging on here. So you can see from 10% to 100 took me a little bit over 3 hours. From 3% to 100 took me a little bit over 3 hours. And pretty much, I would have had more stats, but keep in mind, I just did a factory reset because I'm trying to trim out some of the apps that I use on a daily basis. I kind of felt like I was using a ton. And even with my microSD cards, I don't want to fill them up all the way because they double as internal storage for these devices. And whenever you fill up your internal storage all the way, your devices will get sluggish. So I pretty much just did a factory reset on both of these, reset them back up, and I'm trimming out the apps and stuff that I don't really use. But in general, I can easily say that this guy, the Moto E4 Plus here, took anywhere from about 2.5 hours to 3 hours to reach a full charge. And that, y'all may be saying, well, that's kind of a long time. And I'm like, yes, technically it is. But if you were to compare this guy to another device that had a similar size battery and no rapid charging or turbo charging of any kind, something like the Blue Studio Energy or the Asus Zenfone 3 Max, those guys had similar sized batteries and they took forever to charge. And in particular, with the Blue Studio Energy, that guy did not have any turbo charging or rapid charging of any kind. So it took, in general, 3.5 to about 4 to 5 hours. So having a big battery and decent charge times is really good. So that pretty much wraps up the overall battery life and charge times between both of these devices. Alright, so now we've got to the end of the video, and this is where I want to talk about the price and give you guys a recommendation or two. So, and probably this is the most important, this is probably why I wanted to make this video in the first place. You guys are probably wondering if the, $40 to $50 difference is worth it. Right now, you can pick up the Moto E here on Amazon, and if you're an Amazon Prime customer, this guy will run you a little bit over $100 after taxes, and you get free 2-day shipping. All right, so after taxes, if you're an Amazon Prime customer, this one's gonna run you about 115, 115. Whereas if you want to pick up the big boy here and you're an Amazon Prime customer, it's going to run you 140 after taxes. You're looking at about 150, 155. Keep in mind you still got the same 2-day shipping. All right. Whereas if you buy these unlocked, you're looking at 130 over here. After taxes, you're looking at 140, 145. Whereas over here, you're looking at 180. After taxes, you're looking at like 190, 195. So you guys are probably wondering which one I would recommend. And really, this is where it comes down to personal preference and what you prefer. If you prefer a smaller, more pocket-friendly device, and you like the fact that you have the removable battery, then I could say save yourself the 40 or 50 bucks and go with the Moto E, right? Still got a nice pocket-friendly phone here with a nice, easily one-handable screen, You see, I don't have to flex. I don't have to do any hand adjustments. Everything's mostly reachable, and I don't have to do any phone gymnastics there. So there's that. Save yourself the 40 to 50 bucks and get the Moto E4 here. Or if you like the bigger displays, like myself, the 5.5 inch display is a big sweet spot for me. And if you like the bigger displays and you don't mind the fact that you're not going to have a removable battery, but you do also like the fact that you're going to have a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, then I would say spend a little bit extra and go with the Moto E4 Plus. Alright? Pretty much, regardless of whatever device you pick up, let me zoom out a little bit, see if I can get some more light in the scene. Pretty much, regardless of whatever device you pick up, you're going to have an enjoyable experience. Okay? And honestly, I've had a really enjoyable experience with both of these devices. It almost saddens me to try and decide which one I want to let go, or if I want to let both of them go. But y'all know I got to keep the channel moving forward, so I got to make those decisions soon. And I can always find buyers for nice little devices like these. But anyways, as I said, it really comes down to personal preference. You want the smaller, more pocket-friendly device and the removable battery, I can easily recommend you drop the monies and get the Moto E4, or maybe you want the bigger display and the bigger battery, then go ahead and spend the extra and get the Moto E4 Plus. Regardless of whichever one you pick up, you're getting some really good cameras, you're getting a really good display, you're getting some very stock software with some nice tweaks thrown in. Okay, you're getting the expandable storage, and you're getting the latest version of Android as well. And pretty much, since it's on stock Android, I probably believe you'll probably be getting those nice quick updates. But honestly, since Lenovo took over the updates for the Moto series, regardless of which series it is, whether it be the E, the G, the X, or what have you, has not been so quick. But the fact that you're on a nice stock build here means that you should be lined up very quickly for software updates. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, this may or may not have as much information as some of my other Versus videos, but this is more intended to point out the differences and let you guys know what the key differences are before you guys spend your hard-earned money. Keep in mind, guys, all links to where to purchase these guys at some really great prices will be down in the video description, as well as links to the microSD cards in both of these devices will be down in the video description, as well as links to the camera samples and the photo samples for both of these devices. Alright, so down there it's going to be like a one-stop shop down there. So, that being said, if you guys enjoyed the video, please help your boy out and give it a thumbs up. That really does help me out. You don't know how much. If you want to see more raw, uncut content like this, please hit the subscribe button down below and make sure you click the notification bell icon right next to it so you get notified when I post new videos. And as always, guys, if y'all know anyone out there looking for some high quality, affordable devices and products at some really great prices, please share with them my channel, because I'm doing this for everyone because we all deserve the best. Alright, I hope everyone has a great day, and I will catch you guys in my next video. Oh, hold on, pause. Also wanted to let you guys know that this whole video was recorded using the 13 megapixel cameras on the LG G6. And when I say both, I started out wide, and when I zoom in past a certain point, it switches over to the 13 megapixel primary camera. And as y'all can see, I brought it back to wide. So it actually is interchangeable between both of these cameras, and you don't really have to do too much thinking with it. It's one of the nice sides to the LG G6. I don't know if I said the wrong name, but this whole video was being recorded using the 13 megapixel cameras on the LG G6. So please let me know how the video looks, and please let me know how the audio sounds. Alright, guys and gals, everybody have a good day, and I will catch you guys in my next video. Peace.